Hey guys, welcome back. So now getting back into Venom, and really with everything that's been going on with Venom, even though we jumped to other series, it feels like we never left. And I really don't mind because Absolute Carnage is going absolutely nuts. And because of it, Carnage has just got symbiotes running around left and right. But in addition to that, a lot of faces we haven't seen in a while are coming out the woodwork. And it's pretty exciting, so let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so you can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so getting back into Venom, first things first, like the way that this is being told, it seamlessly connects with Absolute Carnage, because after you read issue 1 of Absolute Carnage and then you pick up Venom number 17, it's like you know exactly what's going on, you know exactly where we at, and it's super smooth and easy to follow. And so now if you guys remember, when we had talked about Eddie and Peter going to see the Maker and taking Dylan and Normie, when the Maker had created a solution in order to extract the codices, he still needed someone to test it on. But with Eddie and Peter not wanting to take that chance with either Dylan or Normie, this then led them to go get Norman Osborn, because if the Maker tries it on him and it doesn't work, then it would kind of be like, oh man, that's unfortunate. And really, better him than the kids, man, come on. But when they go to get Norman Osborn, who also at this time has gone a little cuckoo and believes he's Cletus Cassidy, which is part of the reason why he's in an insane asylum, but when they go to get him, the real Cletus Cassidy stands up, takes Norman Osborn and makes him another type of Carnage, and Cassidy really just does this for his own amusement. But when this happens, it's like, okay, all chances of taking Norman Osborn have just gone out the window. But it's here where we jump back to the Maker, who's more or less babysitting Dylan and Normie, and there are a few things that are super funny about this, because one, the Maker doesn't like kids, and so much of that has to do with his history in the 1610 universe. Like with him growing up as a child, he was super smart and pretty crass, and when he got older and became a Reed Richards more similar to what we would know, it got way worse after Ultimatum, and with Kang traveling back from the future, who was also his wife from an alternate future, like yeah, this guy's got a lot of issues, and he's decided to be a jerk because of it all. But when it comes to the point to where he takes off his helmet in front of the kids and it totally freaks them out, it's kind of hilarious because they had no idea that that was truly the shape of his head, which is something we've been long time used to coming from our talks about the 1610 universe, long before Cataclysm and Secret Wars and him and many others crossed over, because back then we also knew that this Reed Richards would expand his brain in order to do more complex thinking. But at the same time, that's not something you need to do in front of children. But while being left here with the kids and Eddie and Peter telling him that we're not gonna try this machine on the kids, but after they leave, he just looks at them like, okay, which one of y'all first? But even with doing this, I like that Dylan kind of stands up for the both of them, and he lets the Maker know, like, look, Eddie and Spider-Man said it wasn't cool, you're not about to use it on either one of us. And even though the Maker tries to get Norman to go first, and even puffing his chest out a bit to do so, Dylan's pretty much like, nah bruh, I've seen worse. And he more or less knows that push comes to shove, that if the Maker even tries to make them do it, that he's gonna have to eventually answer to Spider-Man and Venom. But it's in the middle of this argument that we get the arrival of Riot, Phage, Agony, and Lasher, who definitely have the Carnage influence written all over their face, crawling out the side of their neck, and when they barge in here, they make it clear that they're here for Normie. But real quick, since we have not seen these guys for a while, I kind of feel like we need to do just a little bit of catching up since like Venom Lethal Protector, because back at the time when these guys first appeared, back in like May of 1993, it was this and also Maximum Carnage, which came out like the fall of that same year, I believe, but it was these events that gave us your first Spider-Man Venom team up, which is one of the things in my opinion which makes Absolute Carnage so rich, with us seeing Spider-Man and Venom teaming up again, because at this point so many years later, so much has changed in their individual lives, and even still they're able to come back together and try to take on Carnage and his symbiotes, which isn't going so well so far, but we'll get back to that. But back at the time in Lethal Protector, where Carlton Drake used the Venom symbiote to produce 5 other symbiotes, when it came to the point where Spider-Man had stepped in to help out, first he had to get Eddie Brock his symbiote back so they could have a fighting chance, which is almost like what we're seeing in Absolute Carnage, but in this case it's Eddie choosing to use the symbiote again, in spite of just walking away like he wanted to just prior to the beginning of Absolute Carnage. But back in Lethal Protector, the way that they had taken down Riot, Phage, Agony, and Lasher, they had used like an age accelerating beam that was at the Life Foundation that they had seen work on the Phage symbiote. Then after seeing that work successfully, they just widened the range of the beam and let it loose on the others. But with doing so at this point in time, they knew that the hosts hadn't fully bonded with the symbiotes, so when they hit them with the beam, like in theory, the people inside wouldn't have been hurt. And at the time when this happened in Lethal Protector, the symbiotes were believed to have been dead. But fast forward to 2019, with the recent release of Separation Anxiety, we get a bit of a narrative which catches us up on where they've been all this time. And what it does is it gives us a bit of more connective tissue of where we've seen them kind of migrate along the way. And just to backtrack just a little bit, like after Lethal Protector, they did pop back up in Separation Anxiety Volume 1 back in 1995, which was like your haunting return of all 5 symbiotes, with Eddie not knowing that they were still alive, but then finding out kind of quick, fast, and in a hurry. And it's here where your Scream symbiote out of your group from the Life Foundation had more or less separated ways from the others, with them initially trying to get help from Eddie and the Venom symbiote, but he had turned them down. But Scream had pretty much went crazy, killing all the others' hosts, leaving many of the symbiotes vulnerable to captivity. And it was from there they were captured and taken to the Vault, which is like a prison for superpowered criminals. But while there and broken free, the 4 of them merged together, becoming Hybrid. And in the case of Hybrid, who was like your anti-villain, to where the human inside of the symbiote, or symbiotes plural in this case, to where it was like the human on the inside had more issues than the symbiotes, like all 4 combined. But the sweet union was broken up not long after Spider Island, when Eddie Brock was symbiote hunting, and in what appeared to be him killing Hybrid, this more or less just separated the 4 to where we saw them again in Carnage USA, of which we talked about recently in the Cult of Carnage video. And so now keep in mind, from Separation Anxiety to Carnage USA, moving forward, this is mainly like your pathway of Riot, Phage, Agony, and Lasher. Scream, I feel like we need to talk about in a separate video, because her journey is just a completely different story than the other 4. But as for the others, their hybrid condition continued in Deadpool vs. Carnage after Carnage slaughtered that Mercury team and the 4 symbiotes merged with Deadpool. And it's really from the conclusion of Deadpool vs. Carnage where the latest volume of Separation Anxiety picks up, because after Deadpool vs. Carnage concluded, Deadpool had given all the symbiotes back to this dog that belonged to the Mercury team, and he told the dog to take the symbiotes back to the government. And I don't know how well he necessarily thought that was gonna go, but of course it didn't go too well, because getting into Separation Anxiety 2019, this stray dog full of symbiotes is found by a little girl by the name of Sadie, who takes him home like, what could go wrong? Well, actually everything can go wrong. And it pretty much did, because it was around this time that when she had the dog in her possession, that the whole awakening, first with Knull and then with Carnage, it caused these symbiotes to go out of control. And so getting closer to Absolute Carnage, when he started calling the symbiotes out, the 4 symbiotes more or less just bonded with her family, using them as hosts, and this is what more or less took them out of the hybrid formation and made them operate as individuals again. And it's pretty wild, because from here, they've pretty much been under the control of Carnage, and that's why when we see them at this point, they've come to take Normie under the orders of Cletus Cassidy, because at this point, these symbionts have been inducted into his army. And so when they arrive here and they catch the Maker, Normie, and Dylan off guard, we come to find out that the Maker has his contingencies for symbiotes breaking in. And albeit though this isn't really his laboratory, and he's really just using Rex's space to build this machine, he still has been mindful of the idea of Carnage coming through there, and either coming for him or at this point coming for Dylan and Normie. And initially the Maker holds them all pretty well, and he tells Dylan and Normie to go get the rest of the weapons in the meantime so they can chip in and help. But while this is happening, the Lasher symbiote, it gets a hold of the Maker, and when it does, the Maker grabs a sonic rifle, cranks it up to the max, and uses it on Lasher in order to get him off. But when he does this, what it actually does, and quite similar to what we've seen in Lethal Protector, but what it does is remove the symbiote completely to the point of where we see underneath is only Sadie, the same little girl whose family was taken by the symbiotes. And the Maker's like, oh, okay, cool, and he's about to like finish her off, but the rest of the symbiotes, they're like, nah, we ain't having that, because even still underneath it all, this is still her family, so they fight to protect her. And it's crazy because like at the same time, like the Maker, what you was finna do, man? Like, we knew you was a jerk, but come on, man. But even still with this happening, Dylan and Normie, who found the other weapons that the Maker had told them to get, like Dylan, he's ready to go, but Normie is scared out of his mind. And what's cool that like pretty quickly during this time that they've been together, they formed a bit of a friendship, and Dylan tells Normie like, don't worry about it, just stay behind me so that he can protect him. But seconds later, the Phage symbiote, he just tears through the wall like it's nothing, slices Dylan's sonic rifle in half, but when he sees Dylan, he lets him know that he smells like his father. And in addition to that, he lets him know that Venom is his father. And this is huge for Dylan because prior to this point, Dylan did not know. And although Eddie knew this entire time, he's always told Dylan that he was just his younger brother, which is also what Eddie's father had left Dylan to believe. But with Eddie knowing different, he still didn't tell him the truth. But after doing this, the Phage symbiote, he doesn't get to give away any more spoilers because these translucent hands that just creep up from behind him, taking him down, and they keep him from giving away any more spoilers. But what we come to find out when this happens, that is actually the sleeper symbiote, who has finally returned, and I know a bunch of you guys are glad to see this guy back, because who knows what he's been doing in space all the way up to this point since Venom first host, or even if the sleeper symbiote's been making little symbiotes out there somewhere, like who knows. But that'll do it for this one, guys. If you want to get more information on the sleeper symbiote, or if you want to get a better understanding on Venom first host, I got a link down in the description where you can check out that playlist, because first host gives us some crazy Kree history with the Venom symbiote that prior to this point, I'll admit, I wasn't sure if it was canon or not, but after going through Absolute Carnage, like, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that it is. But like I said, that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.